Hey, how's it going, everybody? And in this video, we're really going to dive well into the Wells Fargo cross-selling scandal once again. We've talked a bit about this before, but now I really want to dive into it a lot more, especially showing a piece of what Warren Buffett has said about the Wells Fargo cross-selling scandal in this video and the fallout that occurred from there. So remember, if you're new here, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more, because we talk so much about personal finance and the economy itself. It's just so much just income-based related content right here on Income Views. And now, here's Warren Buffett.
At Wells Fargo, there were three very significant mistakes, but there was one that dwarfs all of the others. You're going to have incentive systems at any business, almost any business. There's nothing wrong with incentive systems, but you've got to be very careful what you incentivize. And you can incentivize bad behavior, and if so, you better have a system for recognizing it. Clearly, at Wells Fargo, there was an incentive system built around the idea of cross-selling and number of services per customer, and the company in every quarterly investor presentation highlighted how many services per customer. So it was the focus of the organization, a major focus, and undoubtedly people got paid and graded and promoted based on that number, at least partly based on that number. Well, it turned out that was incentivizing the wrong kind of behavior. We've made similar mistakes. I mean, any company's going to make some mistakes in designing a system, but it's a mistake. And you're going to find out about it at some point, and I'll get to how we find out about it. But the biggest mistake was that, and I don't know, obviously I don't know the facts as to how the information got passed up the line at Wells Fargo, but at some point, if there's a major problem, the CEO will get wind of it. And that is, at that moment, that's the key to everything, because the CEO has to act. That Salomon situation that you saw happened because on April, I think, 28th, the CEO of Salomon, the president of Salomon, the general counsel of Salomon, sat in a room, and they had described to them by a fellow named John Merriweather some bad practice, terrible practice that was being conducted by a fellow named Paul Moser, who worked for him. And Paul Moser was flim-flamming the United States Treasury, which is a very dumb thing to do. And he was doing it partly out of spite, because he didn't like the Treasury and they didn't like him. So he put in phony bids for U.S. Treasuries and all of that. So on April 28th, roughly, the CEO and all these people knew that they had something that had gone very wrong, and they had to report it to the Federal Reserve Board in New York, the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. And the CEO, John Goodfriend, said he would do it, and then he didn't do it. And he undoubtedly put it off just because it was an unpleasant thing to do. And then on May 15th, another Treasury auction was held, and Paul Moser put in a bunch of phony bids again. And at this point, it's all over, because the top management had known ahead of time, and now a guy that was a pyromaniac had gone out and lit another fire, and he lit it after they'd been warned that he was a pyromaniac, essentially. And it all went downhill from there. It had to stop when the CEO learns about it. And then they made a third mistake, actually, but again, it pales in comparison to the second mistake. They made a third mistake when they totally underestimated the impact of what they had done once it became uncovered, because there was a penalty of $185 million, and in the banking business, people get fined billions and billions of dollars for mortgage practices and all kinds of things. The total fines against the big banks, I don't know whether it totals 30 or 40 or billion or whatever the number may be. So they measured the seriousness of the problem by the dimensions of the fine, and they thought a $185 million fine signaled a less offensive practice than something involved $2 billion, and they were totally wrong on that. But the main problem was they didn't act when they learned about it. It was bad enough having a bad system, but they didn't act. At Berkshire, We have the main source of information for me about anything that's being done wrong at a subsidiary is the hotline. Now we get 4,000 or so hotline reports, or that come. We get communications on the hotline, perhaps 4,000 times a year, and most of them are frivolous. The guy next to me has bad breath or something like that. I mean, but there are a few serious ones, and the head of our internal audit, Becky Amick, looks at all those people. A lot of them come in anonymous, probably most of them, and some of them she refers back to the companies, probably most of them. But anything that looks serious, I will hear about, and that has led to action. We'll put them more than once, and we spent real money investigating some of those. We put special investigators sometimes on them, and like I say, it is uncovered certain practices that we would not at all condone at the parent company. I think it's a good system. I don't think it's perfect. I don't know what. I'm sure they've got an internal audit at Wells Fargo, and I'm sure they've got a hotline, and I don't know the facts, but I would just have to bet that a lot of communications came in on that, and I don't know what their system was for getting them to the right person, and I don't know who did what at any given time.
So the Wells Fargo cross-selling scandal. Warren Buffett kind of talked a little bit about this here, and they were dishonest, is what he has said in that clip. If they were just honest, and if they would have come out with this issue just right off the bat, if they understood that they shouldn't hide anything, then I think that Wells Fargo, possibly the fallout from this, it would have been bad. Obviously, I mean, this was a terrible scandal, but maybe it would have saved face just a little bit for this gigantic mega company, this mega company. And I really do believe that the Wells Fargo cross-selling scandal is a damper, a terrible, terrible blemish on Wells Fargo, a company that is dated back, I believe, since the 1800s even. So there were a ton of investors in Wells Fargo, including Berkshire Hathaway, including Charlie Munger, and these guys have talked a lot about Wells Fargo in the past. So the Wells Fargo cross-selling scandal was caused by creation of millions of fraudulent savings and checking accounts on behalf of Wells Fargo clients without their knowledge or consent due to aggressive internal sales goals at Wells Fargo. News of the fraud became widely known in 2016 after various regulatory bodies, including the CFPB, fined the company a combined $185 million as a result of this illegal activity. The company faces additional civil and criminal suits reaching an estimated $2.7 billion at the end of 2018. And Wells Fargo and former bank executives were faced with legal ramifications as early as September, or as recently, as 2023, September 2023. So think about that. The fallout is still occurring even today. This is still making news even now. I mean, think about this. This gigantic company, this has been going on since 2016 in terms of the public actually knowing about this. And it still continues on and on and on, like 9-10 years later. It's crazy. And Wells Fargo clients began to notice the fraud after being charged unanticipated fees and receiving unexpected credit or debit cards or lines of credit. I mean, think about this for a second. Just customers, just Wells Fargo clients beginning to notice the fraud themselves. And initial reports blamed individual Wells Fargo branch workers and managers for the problem, as well as sales incentives associated with selling multiple solutions or financial products. This blame was later shifted to a top-down pressure from the higher level management to open as many accounts as possible through cross-selling. I mean, it's really just a terrible, terrible, terrible thing that happened here. And this is really a huge reason why a lot of people would not ever invest in a company like Wells Fargo. It's because that the dishonesty that was created with this scandal turned so many people off, and rightfully so. I don't believe the stock has ever really truly recovered from this cross-selling scandal. And this is a company and a stock that, if this didn't happen, if there was a parallel universe or something like this did not happen for them, I truly believe this would be a stock that would actually be worth investing in potentially. But with this, with legal and financial and reputational ramifications, still to this day, just absolutely leaving a tremendous, tremendous blemish on Wells Fargo, then so many people just don't want to invest in a company like that, and I can't necessarily blame them. What I absolutely love about Warren Buffett's content is that he gives a take that was relevant 100 years ago, it's relevant right now, and it's going to be relevant 100 years from now as well. And that is exactly why you should subscribe to this channel, is because we provide so much amazing content just like this, talking about the stock market, finance, and all of that, and we try to make every single video that will be relevant 100 years from now as it is relevant right now today. Thanks so much once again for checking out this video of income views. Remember to subscribe. If you can't subscribe, I cannot continue making videos just like this one for you. Also remember to click the like button and also comment as to what you think of this video and what else you would like to see in terms of personal finance, Warren Buffett content, and so much more, because we cover it all on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.